Morning space chat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dang it.
I felt like being really extra with it today.
Amazing.
And hopefully I got my headphones in. Hopefully that all came through every time I was playing an instrument. I'm going to try again with the headphones in future times, but I tried to play that Peruvian flute and then the harmonica, and none of them went through. It's just like so now I've got headphones, and hopefully we're going to have better audio quality as well as a result. Welcome to Morning Space Chats, the morning show of the Space Cats Happy Hour podcast. I am Zadikat Sun Portal, aka Kay, and with me is my delightful co-host.
Dread Pirate KK here.
Yay! And we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff today. I just wanted to start with a few updates on things we spoke about in the last episode, because there's like a few corrections I wanted to make to what I said. So I had talked about the James Webb Telescope discovery about how we might be living inside a pocket universe inside a black hole, and that was based on images showing that it wasn't a 50-50 split between galaxies rotating clockwise and counterclockwise as expected if we were doing the normal universe thing that we thought we were doing. And I said it was actually 75-25. And it was actually 2/3 clockwise and 1/3 counterclockwise. And I also wanted to know which one was which, because for me, the clockwise energy is like attracting stuff and bringing stuff in, and counter is pushing it out and repelling. So it's interesting. So 2/3 rotating, attracting in, 1/3 rotating, pushing things out. And I linked to the article in the show notes of that episode if you want to go check it out for yourself. And then I also, because I was really interested in what you'd said about that thing you'd heard about humans coexisting with dinosaurs, and you had mentioned maybe it was like a type of inner earth being, and I went and looked it up, and it was really interesting. And again, I put the article in the show notes for that episode, which was called, I believe, the Bigfoot Guide to Deflecting Chaos. They described it as a human primate ancestor, and it had rat-like teeth. Anyway,
Whoa.
it sounded very inner earthy to me.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's just
Wow.
my updates to our last episode. But I want to get into things because you just cleared trails, and you want to share about that. It's really nice news.
Yeah. It's been so good because my grandpa used to have trails throughout the woods and stuff, and obviously he hasn't been around for a million years, and so it's all grown over and whatever. And Lee has been wanting to go clear them. He's been talking about this for months. He's so excited for like the good weather to finally hit in the fall so we can go out there without flies or bugs or any of this stuff, or sweating our asses off or whatever. And so we went out on Wednesday and Thursday, and the Wednesday one was centered around the woods. So, and we didn't get every trail because like we were working really hard, but like I have a couple trails now that are just so clear and so perfect. And like the woods is magical, and the weather was literal perfection. It wasn't too chilly, but just a tiny bit because it was raining and just drizzling. And it's like that kind of rainforesty rain where there's no like thunder or lightning or anything. It's just like it's just gonna drizzle all day long. But because we were in the woods, we had so much tree cover, it wasn't like pouring massively on us, but just enough to hear the magical drips of water on the leaves. And I kept looking around at the trees like, you gave me such a gift. I can't believe you called in rain. I'm so excited. It was just like the greatest feeling ever. And now I can like go from my house down because he mowed a whole path like through the grown-up weeds that are like 8 feet tall, and
Holy
like now
shit.
I can yeah, there's right next to the cornfield, and so it's just like now I can go through that path straight up into the woods and like do my thing. Oh my gosh, there's so many zen spots up there. So anyway, we were working pretty hard, like clearing brambles and honeysuckle and like fallen logs and all this stuff. So I just got a nice farm girl workout, which is my favorite type of energy to use. And my spine, since the tick bite thing, my spine has been super, like it feels dry and brittle and like stiff and like it's going to crumble into dust at any minute. But I've had a couple of activations over the past few months that have kind of cleared some of whatever that is. I know it's like a healing, repair, under construction kind of thing. And so I've had a couple of activations that have loosened it up. And then after doing the woods trails, I came back, I took a shower, and I was like, oh my God, my spine feels like amazing. And there's still a little bit of stuff there, but I was like, I can finally feel like it's actually moving it on its way out. And
That's
so
incredible.
I know I'm so excited for you to visit because you're going to love these trails.
I was
Oh,
just gonna say this is making me so excited to visit because I love nothing more than a walk in the woods.
I know. You're gonna, yeah. It's like the feeling of Muir Woods that we were visiting when we went to San Francisco. I mean, it's not quite because that's a whole space, but this is the Midwest version.
Yeah, no, but that's so special. Oh, I'm tingling.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Ew. I just talk like my mom. My mom always does these like very sensual descriptions of like
Mm.
reactions to things, and it's
Yeah.
and I found myself saying those things lately. And I'm like, ew.
Like, I'm good. Let's change that. I get it. Okay, so the next day, Thursday, we went out to clear part of the meadow because Lee had found, he was like, I got a Zen spot. I found a Zen spot. You're gonna love it. I'm gonna clear it. So it was just a really sweet, like he just had this goal in mind. And this field that I'm talking about, this is a huge meadow. It would go down to the pond and like we would sled down the hills, and it was just, and now it's just completely again overgrown with like weeds and brambles and all this stuff. So he brings his little, it's so much fun to watch a bush hog at work because it moves through these things just like butter. It's like it doesn't even care how
Oh my
strong.
God. Sorry. I thought you were calling, I didn't know what a bush hog was. So I thought you were like calling Lee, like that was like a name for like a boss got person in the bush, you know?
Oh my God. That is the best thing ever. I'm going to tell him this.
Sorry.
That's so, yeah. If for anybody who doesn't know, like a bush hog is like, he's got a 5 foot one, and a 5 foot one is going to be the one that I want for Froggy eventually whenever we get that going. But anyway, it's attached to a tractor and it's just a giant mower and it will go through literally anything. Like it just, so it's a really, you got to have one
Wow.
for farm work because you just got to have one. And it also, because even if you don't have like a bunch of weeds, it still is bigger than a regular mower. Because if I tried to mow all of that with a regular lawn
Yeah.
mower, it would take like a week. So it really cuts a wide swath of like, if you got a big place to mow. So he takes his little bush hog and he goes through all these brambles and all the everything around this beautiful meadow that I just have a lot of memories from in childhood. And there's one tree, it's a giant ancient like hedge tree, and she feels very feminine to me, and she's all black. Like she's so, well, I don't even know if she grows hedge apples anymore, but like it's just
Whoa.
ancient, beautiful black tree. And then
Oh, how magical.
I know you're gonna love. I can't wait for you to go. And then a little ways away, there's a giant sycamore tree, and he feels masculine to me, and he's white, and like it just feels like these two trees are the portal that you go through to like be on this. It's just like the most magical thing. So anyway, as he was mowing around
Mm.
the hedge tree, kind of like not right next to her, but kind of down and around, and anyway, leading to this Zen spot, he happens to run over a yellow jacket nest because they nest in the ground, and I'm following behind, walking, and I'm carrying the chainsaw. And then I start to see these bees, and I was like, oh, and they were coming for me. And I was like, oh my God. Ah! And I was freaking out because I thought they were hornets at first. And
Yeah.
hornets don't lose their stinger. So it's like they will sting you over and over and over. And I was like, fuck. And I dropped the chainsaw. And I ran for the barn,
Oh
but
my
then
God.
I lost my glasses. And I was like, so even though like there were all these bees around me, I was like flailing and looking and I couldn't see because I didn't have my glasses on. It was hilarious in hindsight, but I was not laughing in the moment. And some
That
of
is so my girl, but like the funny, not tragic version
there you go.
with the glasses.
so bad. So I ran up to the barn, finally found my glasses, and I ran to the barn, and they had gotten in in my sleeves, and so I
Oh,
tore off my shirt, and I was like, I mean, it honestly was probably the funniest thing to to witness, but I was like, fuck. And finally, in my arm, I had seen a stinger, and so I was like, oh, they're not hornets, they're losing their stingers, but like. I still was so Lee knew something was wrong because he saw me at the top of the hill flailing, and so he came back, and I was like, I just got stung by all these, and I had to like have him check all of the sting bites to make sure all the stingers were out. And
oh
so
my
anyway, I
God.
wanted to say like where they were because it felt very significant. I had some on my left arm, and it feels like some of this hand healing I can do feels very feminine in nature. So it's interesting that it was like, oh, and I had that dream a while back about me removing like snake like I like
Yes.
snake energy or whatever, but like this was a toxic snake energy, and I was removing it from my family members and like all kinds of stuff, and I think I was doing it with my left hand anyway, so it just felt very significant that it was activating my left arm. And then I have some here right under my right collarbone, which I think is kind of near where the high heart chakra is, or something
Yes.
like that, masculine side, all the things. Then there's a spot in my on my back pretty near my spine, and I could feel the poison kind of flowing in there, like activate like the tick bite stuff. And then there was oh, and then my right ear. And so it was interesting because I swear I'll let you get a word in edgewise, but I went to acupuncture a few hours later yesterday. And so I had him check some stuff. I was like, if everything's fine, whatever. And before we even started the session, he was pointing to his left ear. And he was like, you see how massive he'd done some other activation. Like he tried a new supplement or something had happened. And his left ear just like swelled up and like started oozing. So anyway,
Whoa.
it was, and then I was like, that's so weird because I'm about to tell you about my right ear. And I feel like, the masculine, I think I'm hearing something from divine masculine now that is going to help me with like more activations, but I couldn't, it's like again, an energetic activation with a physical side effect where you have this like massive, and I couldn't even sleep on this side last night because I was like, it was like so itchy and
Oh,
burnt here or whatever. And so I've had this second activation by insects, by poisony
wow.
insects or whatever. And I'm like, and I'm not worried about the bite because I would have known right away if I had been allergic to them or whatever. Last point. Interestingly, also at acupuncture, when I told him I'd gotten stung by yellow jackets, he was like, "Oh, the antidote for that, literally yellow jacket specific, is honeybee." And I was like, "What? Like the stinger?" And he was like, "No, you just ground up the whole bee." I was like, "What are you
Oh
doing?"
my God.
It was the weirdest thing. And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, all the messages I've been getting about how I am a honeybee, like a queen honeybee." And it was like, I'm literally the antidote and the poison is going in and it's just activating my honeybee. My mind was like blown.
Wow.
So anyway,
Holy
yes,
cow.
that was my last couple days. It's been fun.
I've had a couple of bee activations, nothing on that level. That is bonkers kazuzu. Um,
I don't recommend it.
well, I actually, that doesn't sound pleasant at all, but I was relieved because I'd never been stung by a bee before. I was relieved to discover like, oh, okay, this goes away pretty quickly. And like I didn't get stung a million, whatever. But like, if you just get a random bee sting, it's like, oh, it's like,
Yeah.
for at least for me, it was like gone like within a few minutes. It was like, oh, so
It's
it's like, oh, it's
really
not that bad.
It's really interesting that you said that because the other thing I was going to say about this was that even though I was flailing and part of me was very panicky, I was also like, oh, this doesn't really hurt that bad. Like I could feel a burning and I knew I didn't need to be afraid because I wasn't allergic to it, even though in my mind I was like, like freaking out. And I was just like, this is just a mild, again, don't recommend it or whatever. But I was still like very surprised at how not bad it was. And it itches a little bit now, like there's some histamine in there and stuff, but it's like
Right, of course.
it's fine.
I mean, you had such a big dose, Jesus Christ. Wow.
Oh, sorry, that was the other thing. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize all this stuff was going to come out. But I was noticing that part of the activation, so as you know, I have been dealing with a lot of rage and like anger, and it's just like explosive, I need to scream kind of things, and I'm sick of it or whatever. The The yellow jackets, they were extremely angry. They were full of rage. They were full of like aggression. They were full of like defending their home. You know, they were out for revenge. They were gonna fucking come for me. And so when they stung me, I was like, oh, this is helping me get this out of my body or
Oh,
whatever.
that's so cool. Wow.
Especially because it happened right before we finished. Once we got all my stingers out or whatever, we went back and finished the path to the Zen spot, and it's gorgeous. It's like this little clearing, and I don't even, I think the reason it is clear is because there's a spring that goes through it, and it's pretty marshy. There were a lot of reeds and stuff, and I was like, what is going, so it's just like this magical place. You go through this, you know, tunnel of weeds, and you're and then all of a sudden it's a clearing, and there's a bunch of water there, and water is like my element, you know. So I'm just like this, so it just felt like bee energy needed to be there with the zen and the, you know, getting the anger out and all this stuff.
That
That was a
makes
lot.
me,
Now I'm done.
no, that just makes me think of okay, so one thing I did want to say that ties into this is you had referenced your tick bite, and if somebody's people are listening being like, what tick bite? The episode
Oh,
where we talked about that was Hello from the Other Side, which wasn't our morning. It's our one episode that we've released since we've been back releasing for the past month or so that wasn't a morning space chat. So, and it's got a lot of stuff about physical experiences. So it could be helpful to, and like body stuff and body activation. So if you've been experiencing a lot of physical things, it might be helpful to go back and listen to if you haven't heard it. But because I talked about the when I my experience of fainting while doing some breath work outside, falling down, hitting my face, um, and then having to go get stitches, and then my face was all like full of scabs and blood, and um, I had to get stitches under my chin, and then it was like within a week, it had like 90% of everything was like completely healed, and then the stuff under my chin just like totally went away. And it makes me think with your bee sting thing too, like it was going through that, it was very gentle the whole time. Like I just kind of came out of the faint being like, huh? And then there was this nice person there that stayed with me the whole time and called an ambulance for me and was super chill and nice to talk to. And the ambulance, everything was great. And um, what it feels like is it's like, oh, you would say these are like karmic experiences, except they're not. These are like post karmic experiences because the I wasn't even in a lot of pain. Like it was like such a, it's like a, as we've talked about before, like going from karmic, post karmic to post karmic, it's like a, it's not like a 100% karmic to 0% karmic. It's like a gradual thing. But this new level or whatever, it's like things are, there's so much less suffering and hardship involved. Everything's just so much gentler, and it brings so much, it's like actually brings like wonderful, so it's like, oh no, this is showing you that your body is doing this crazy miracle healing now, and like this is like this big gift to you to show you what you're capable now of, like super accelerated or like timeline jump healing, or in your case this huge activation that's like helping you, you know, release stuff. So it's really cool to see these examples.
mm-hmm.
um yeah, wow,
I know.
amazing story. Okay, I have something I want
Oh,
to
oh,
share, which
are
is
we gonna
very
do the?
funny to yes. Okay, so I can't remember which episode, but I talked about a funny big nudge that I got from my guides or my bigger self or my own intuition. I don't know what, but it was like, you have to write a letter to the government telling them exactly what you want them to do. And it felt really weird because I've just completely removed myself from the political sphere for the past few years. Like just energetically, I've been like so divorced. Like it would never occur to me to like physically interact with them in any kind of way. Um, like I stopped voting because I was like, no, that's not where my energy is supposed to go. We've had so many, like we have so many elections in Canada. um, but I did it, and I was describing on the episode, like I just wrote it as if nobody was going to receive it. I just wrote it in like the most woo or whatever. And I was like, I want you, like, because when I write things,
They happen.
yeah, they happen like way more often than not. So it's very powerful. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. So I was like, I want the government, and I wrote it to the prime minister.
I love it. So
And
good.
it was like, I just put his name, Mark. I didn't call him prime minister because I'm like, I don't use honorifics for people.
Yes.
I was just like Mark Carney, and I was just like, attention, Mark Carney, and then I was just like, hi, I want you to make wise and generous decisions and make wise and generous initiatives on these topics and fund these. It was just like very like, and I was, as I was writing it, I was like having these flashbacks to when circa 2014-15 there was a period where I would reach out to local members of parliament for, it was mostly for like immigration things. There'd be these rallies and protests and like very urgent appeals to be like, stop this deportation. And they would, the people organizing it would give you bullet points, and you would have to call the office and like say the bullet points to try to get the deportation. So that period of time, I was engaging in those actions for a while, and they always felt so excruciatingly uncomfortable to me. Like you phone, and then you're like, actually, I thought you would get like a machine and you just leave your message, but you like end up talking to somebody, and then they're asking you questions, and you're like, look, all I have are these bullet points. Like I believe in it, but like I don't have a
Yeah.
lot to say. And it was like my neurodivergence was just like, you know, like
Oh,
please. So I was having these flashbacks. It just felt like so cringy, like and uncomfortable. And then the fact that I was like being full kook, spiritual
yeah.
kook about it. So I carefully did not include a phone number or an email or anything. So I was like, well, they won't be able to reach me. At least I'm just sending this off, you know. Now I go on my merry way. I was like, I will do this, but I'm not talking to anybody. Um, and then I just yesterday came home and I looked in the mailbox, and I'm like, Rick, I'm holding it up if people are watching. It's like the office of the prime minister. And I was just like, oh no. So I
Oh
couldn't,
my
I was
God.
like, I can't look at it, but I will look at it on the show, because it just, like, I know their office must get so many letters that they classify as like some kook or whatever. But
They
and
wrote
who cares?
back.
I know it's a who cares. Like I know it's a who
I
cares,
know.
and it's just, I'm like, what do I? But it's just like,
It's so funny.
it's very funny.
I love it.
Ah, da, dee, da, da. Okay, great. It's just very neutral. Okay, thank God. Okay, it says, oh, I also didn't put my full name. I just put K initial Campius. I didn't put Kathleen, like K Campius Rittenhouse. Anyway, dear K Campius, on behalf of Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, I acknowledge receipt of your letter. The Prime Minister values feedback and suggestions from Canadians. Always pleased to receive comments about the important issues facing our nation. Please be assured that the time you have taken to share your views on this topic is appreciated, and that your remarks have been carefully read. Okay, phew.
So incredible.
I mean, what else could they say to
I know,
me? Like,
right?
it's
Yeah.
just like these incredibly general, like, basically directives to them that I gave. I'm going to keep
Oh,
this because it's hilarious.
gotta. That is the funniest. Oh
Fuck
my God.
yeah.
Incredible.
Um,
Oh my God.
okay. That makes me think of something else
Okay, tell me.
I wanted to talk about, which is really a really interesting TikTok video that I think you ended up watching, or at least
Which one?
responding. The one I sent in the shared thread that was about magic changing.
Yes. I just
Yeah.
watched it this morning. It was so good. So helpful. Oh, God.
Yeah. I will try to find the link so that it can go in the show notes so you can people can watch it if they want. But when I was just saying right now, when I write things, they happen, like most of the time. One of the things that was really helpful about this video, which was by this person who practices magic, and she's really funny because I don't know if she still considers herself as an atheist, but I guess when she first started, maybe she still does, but she was very atheistic. But she just couldn't deny the effectiveness of the magic. And she'd been practicing for, I think, 10 years now or something. And the video was all about how magic is changing. So she was talking about how she always kept herself accountable by, she has this Excel spreadsheet to chart when her magic works and when her spells work. And one of the things that she said that was so helpful to hear and gracious, and of course just intuitively makes sense, but she was like, you should never be shooting for like things working 100% of the time. Like if you're doing like, 60% of the time you're getting, that's great. And then if you're getting like 70, 75, like woohoo, but like 100% of the time, it's just not like, you don't, as she said, I think it's just not realistic. And I say, just like, why put that pressure on yourself and that expectation? And like, why would you want that level of micromanagement control over your reality? But so she had been operating, I forget, it was somewhere around 75 or 80. This was a very high percentage for a while. And she'd just gotten so used to doing the magic and experiencing the results that she's just taking it for granted. And then she talked about, so she, as I said, been doing that for about 10 years. And then she talked about how about 3 years ago, things started to go wonky with it and her percentages started to go off. And she talked about how first it was her divinations and like things about foretelling, and then it was like her actual spells. And at first she kind of was like, went into like, oh, I guess this just doesn't work anymore. But then when it went to the spell, she was like, what, something weird is going on. And she talked about how things are just getting more accelerated and unpredictable. And yeah, just magic itself is changing because it's sort of tied to these old rules and the rules are changing. And just timelines are like just starting to change really fast and everything's changing. So she called it unpredictable. So I was listening to the video and I was like, what came through for me was I was like, I don't think things are becoming unpredictable. I think things are becoming more fluid, and we perceive it as unpredictable. And so, but it was really helpful to hear from a person who had been stable in their magic practice for so many years and then had something to like compare data to. Circa like 2022, I guess would have been when things shifted for her, versus when my multidimensional abilities and yours came on like just a few months after me, but mine were like late 2019, came on super fast. All these things I started to be able to do. And I had about a year and a half, maybe more, of seeing tremendous consistent success with them. And then
Yeah.
it was like things became much more unpredictable. And it really, I didn't have those decades of like experience to draw on, or decade. So I was just like, what's going on? And also I did get a lot of personal confirmations that it was integration and it was stuff to do with balancing doing and non-doing. And the magnetic or feminine energy of non-doing was coming online for us to like just see the power of doing nothing, inaction, rest, as opposed to taking action. So there was that as well. But what I was just had to extend our sessions. um, but what I was thinking about was how, magic is very much something that has been practiced for a long time, but with a lot of structure and a lot of rules, and things with structure and rules, everything's shifting around that with multidimensional fluid reality coming online. But the other aspect is when you've got people locked into a rule, which is just a structure to put around whatever method you're using of using your consciousness to create your external reality or shift or change it. When you have people that are practicing that and they are all been using the same rules and they're like, these work, it creates a very stable foundation, because they don't have to have the internal ego resistance of like overcoming, like, will this work, won't this work? It's like, oh no, this is, I have my teacher who's taught me this, they've done it they have evidence, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Same with like why prescriptions, we were like, oh, prescriptions work, this prescription will take it and it'll work. It's like we've decided as a society, in our collective mind, there's enough people that are like, yes, this works. So then it's like very easy for it to just do its job, because it's just a vehicle for consciousness to do its thing, right? But what we've been having is all of these people now coming into their version of consciousness expansion and exposure to multidimensional reality. So it's people who are now being exposed to magic through like downloads or activations or seeing someone on TikTok, and it's like, it's not through the rules, and they haven't done it for a long time, so they're full of uncertainty. So it's creating, and it's not just magic, but I was going to say, my whole point is that it's spirituality or metaphysics, it's all changing. So it applies to, and this is, so anyway, with magic, like people are trying things and then it doesn't work, and then they're like, oh, so it's shaking up the whole foundation, which is intentional, because what we're moving towards is like what's coming through for me of what we're moving towards with multidimensional reality is like, a space where you don't have to follow widely recognized rules. You like create your own path.
Yeah.
And so that is going to shake up the old way of doing it, where it's like, oh, once you reach just this percentage of people who are doing it and we establish it, I think we're still going to see that kind of stability when you reach a certain set point, but I think it's going to be much smaller, and sometimes it can just be individual and stuff. But yeah, so so she called it unpredictability, and I would say it's getting into the space that makes everybody so uncomfortable, where it's like, you can't just say, now this is why prescriptions, people are like, well, prescriptions don't work. Like this is why we have people being like, oh, and this vaccine, whatever. I'm not going to start listing things, but and yeah, so like why things that were like pretty solid in the science world are like starting to get disrupted, and in why even, and what she was saying about it happening really quickly is also why it feels so overwhelming, because even like the stuff around manifesting, where people would talk about manifesting and law of attraction, and that's very recent. Like that whole school of thought is so recent, and it had a certain tipping point of people who were practicing it and seeing results, so it became a very effective, like reliable method. And then now it's just like thrown up again, because because of like all these new people coming online with their they're like unsure, uncertain energy, plus the fact that we're getting more fluid. So all that to say, that sounds scary, but it's actually for me comforting, because it's like, no, it's not that nothing works, or there's nothing that you can rely on or whatever. It's just we're going through a shift, and the way we're going to do things is changing, and so much of it also is doing less. There's so much doing less and seeing how doing. That's the other component, I guess I would say. There's the new people with their kind of shaky, uncertain energy coming online. I'm including myself in that. There's the increasing fluidity and the multidimensionality of everything. And then there's the non-doing becoming like so much more prominent and effective. So that is intentionally shaking up old methods that rely on doing. Because spellcasting, there's an aspect of it that is kind of non-doing, but there's also a lot of stuff that is doing, like where you are doing the ritual or whatever. This is also why I think the Lazy Witch oracle card that I suddenly felt like I wanted to put onto a tote bag and wear everywhere with me and like make merch out of is relevant.
Absolutely.
Because it's like pulling out extraneous effort and energy expending from witchcraft and spellcraft and that kind of magic.
Love it.
So that's my thoughts on that. And as I said, I will try to find the video on TikTok and put the link in the show notes so that people can watch it. It's just really nice, you know, to watch somebody who's very grounded about their practice talk through something as well.
Yeah, she had really good energy. I actually ended up following her. I was like, I don't know what else you're gonna, I just want to see what you have to say.
She showed up in my dream last night.
Whoa.
I think I followed her too. I think I was like, I really vibe with you. And then she showed up in my dream, and it was a really nice dream too.
Oh, good.
So anyway, positive energy person. Yeah. But the most soothing takeaway for me was I'm still putting so much pressure on myself to see like 90% or 100% results from all of my stuff. And it's just like, why, bitch? Why are you doing that?
Good point. Just relax.
Yeah.
So much trickster energy is just like, have fun, play. It's like you don't have to. And I've been like working through my experiences of the cruel way of experiencing trickster energy, but like all of it out here, it's like crows and cats and, you know, mainly those, I guess, but they're all just like, we're just here to play and have a good time. And that's what you can do now. You don't have to live in the haunted house or whatever, you know.
I know. That just reminded me of a really funny, I'm just going to talk about TikToks that I saw now. This is the podcast now, is me talking about TikToks that I saw. But I think I sent it to you, where it was like, this guy was like, I just watched a whole bunch of animal communicator TikToks, and it was really funny because the cats were all talking about how time is meaningless and like stuff like that. And then the dogs were like, I'm so happy. I love to run. And he's like, and the cats are like telling you their past lives. And
so cute.
Yeah. I was like, cats. Classic cats.
Classic cats. That was a good video too.
Yeah. It was gotta love a dog and gotta love a cat. I have a technique. This just organically happened, but it's been very effective. This because it seems so. It's like the most obvious banal thing, but for me, it just like clicked something. But for not even my, I was going to say minor irritations, but not even minor. Like, but say you're having a day and it's like, oh, you spilled this, and then this spilled this, and then on top of that, like, it caused another mess, and now you have to clean up a million messes, or oh, you just shattered some glass or whatever. Um, I just naturally started saying, "Good, I'm glad that happened," and it just immediately reminds me that I do have a sense of humor and I'm not just like whatever, and it just takes me out of it, and it just like clears it like really
Nice.
effectively. Um, because those types of irritants can like turn into this overstimulation that builds and builds, and then just creates its
Yeah.
own momentum and stuff, and it just like cuts it off at the knees. So anyway, I just recommend. Good, I'm glad that I had another one too that I said, yeah, and I wish I could remember it because it was much funnier. um but it's not coming back to me, but that one like really, making myself laugh out loud is always good. But yeah, I had a few good, I'm glad that happens today.
Oh, yeah.
But
I
like
was,
and then I was using it for small things, and I was like, I should use this for like anything.
mhm. I like that. I think I'm gonna start adopting that one because I do. That's how sometimes my rage gets triggered, where like a little thing will happen, and I'm just like, ah, it's just the overstimulation, though. It's not like I'm really angry about something that like catching my sweater on a door jamb or whatever, but I'm like, it's just the overstimulation.
Yeah, I was just reflecting today, things with my menstrual cycle. There's two things, which one is irritability leading to rage, and two, emotional, becoming very emotional, leading to feeling depressed type feelings, leading to like giving up type feelings. And I was like, okay, the irritable rage is just a sign that I always feel it when I've got too many like things and I'm feeling a false sense of urgency, and I'm like, I have to do this and I have to do this, and it's like, that's not your life anymore. You don't have to, you can push anything off, and like,
Mhm.
nah, like falling into that, like I have to, you can like cut, you, if there is something that you feel that like you, okay, this must be accomplished today, you can take everything off, else off the table if you need to. um so I was like, oh, that's just that feeling, and I can again cut it off at the knees by slow down, take things off your plate, just step back and chill, and don't take in any stimulation for a while. Like, go sit, rest your eyes, try to take a little nap or whatever, meditate, whatever, sit in nature. And then the other one, the emotional one, I was like, oh, that's um exhaustion. That's just exhaustion. When
Oh
I've
yeah.
pushed my heart self too hard for too many days in a row and haven't rested enough, um, that leads to a physical level of exhaustion that caused me to start. That's the first sign, is all like start becoming emotional and crying over things. And then it's like that goes into tuk tuk tuk. So again, that's like, okay, you really just have to pause it all
Mm-hmm.
and just rest.
Rest.
But again, it's these like perspective shifts coming in that are very nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had after clearing the trails and all this stuff, this is within the last day or so, where I've just been kind of sitting in awe of how much freedom and richness I have internally, where I am a completely different person than I was 5 years ago. And I've spent so much of that time kind of beating myself up like, oh, I should be trying harder. I should be working harder, all the things, but also kind of deconditioning from that programming at the same time. So I know that those aren't true. But sitting here going like, and I see it because I'm helping other people through these same awakenings and deconditioning and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow, those chains are really strong. I don't have them anymore. I'm like I'm like colander on the head lady. I really do not care anymore. And I try to, I mean, I'm sure there's certain things I do care about at certain levels or whatever, but like not really. I am fully just like unconventional, out of the box. I just don't care what other people are thinking because I'm like, sucks to be you then, because I'm having a rich ass life. Like I am a pirate queen. I'm a honeybee. Like I have the midnight dine. All these things that you're never gonna get from, the school system or whatever about yourself, and how this journey of self-empowerment has been really amazing because I've created an it's a mind-blowing reality for me. Like my inner child is just like, we get to live like that. Actually, it's not even my inner child. She was already doing that. It's like my inner teen. Like when we were reading all those dragon books and being like, okay, I know magic isn't real, but oh my God, these books are so good. And that's like, it's real. It's like, yeah. So
Ah, you're so right. It's the inner teen that's been getting more stable and feeling better lately. Ah, really good point there. The colander head lady
oh yeah.
is from an oracle card. I actually just saw it. I was looking through my old oracle cards recently. I saw her again, and she always makes me laugh. It's from I forget.
What was that story?
It
Yeah.
was like a book of old stories, some kind of European, and there was like or it might have been like, I don't know if it was European or like took place somewhere like Greece or something, because it was like a lot of donkeys and mountains and stuff. But anyway, it was
Yeah.
about like a village, and I I I didn't follow the story. I just cut the images out, and some of them had things attached. But there was so there's a lot of a young man like taking his donkey to and from, and looking at things, looking at a things from a close perspective and a far away perspective. And there's ones about the villagers having to leave, and then there's ones where the children are playing. But this is one where the children in the yard with their mom, but she just has a colander on her head for some reason. And
So good.
it was, I forget, it was like something about like the text was something about like mom gets to go a little wacky or something. It was like
Yeah.
that mothers have to like hold it together so much, but it's like this energy when the mom just gets to, instead of being sensible and practical and responsible and vigilant, hyper vigilant,
Mhm.
just gets to be wacky and kooky. And like that's actually really good for everybody, and like really great is that energy. I can't remember what the tag was, but it cracks me colander on the head. um
So good.
yeah. Oh, I also remembered another thing that I've started doing where I was like, what, why, I'm like, why am I not congratulating myself when I'm making mistakes and telling myself I'm proud of myself when I make a mistake? Like that's when I need to hear it the most, that I'm
Yeah.
proud of myself. And
Oh,
that's something I was like, I wonder if there are parents who start, I'm sure there are, but like even in like gentle parenting that I've seen, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, it's okay, like you made a mistake, that's fine, like, it's good to you learn from them and blah blah blah. That's what they'll say. And it's like, it's all right, it's safe to me, mistakes are a part of life. But like literally saying like, yay, I'm so proud of you, congratulations, you made a mistake, like hooray, like that is like a crucial component of existence. And look, it's like it brings blessings, look, like,
wow.
so I've started trying to remember to do that to myself,
Love that.
as opposed to
Stealing that.
the old way of like, you piece of shit, you've ruined everything again. It's better.
Yeah.
Surprisingly better.
Wonder why.
Yeah. And I often like that one, like, because that's like when I'm making mistakes, then it's still, and like I think it's part of my human design that I'm supposed to be making mistakes too, but it's like, gah. And so that's where I actually have to like often like hug myself as I say it, because it's like I need all of the
Yeah.
positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
But it's like so hard even, and my brain will be like saying as I'm doing it, it'll be like, why are you congratulating yourself, you're just going to do it again. And it's like, no, I'm just going to do it again if I beat myself up for it and fall into a shame spiral and feel powerless and like all that stuff, that's when I'm going to do it again, the exact same mistake. So,
Yep.
other voice.
Nice. Yeah, it's like nothing changes until you change, or your shift in perspective. It's like, do we want to keep doing the same stuff? What happens if we do create a new pattern? Like, congratulating ourselves for having a mistake or whatever. And it's like that part of, I found that part of me that still holds on to wanting to be in the old loops. Like, how you were like, oh, you'll just do it again or whatever. It's like, what if we just tried something different? Part that seems wounded and wants to hold on to the past, whatever. Just try something different. You can tell me I told you so later if you want, but we're just going to try something new, like a little micro contract with yourself.
So if anybody needs to hear it, congratulations. I'm so proud of you. You just made a mistake. Oh my God, it was a huge one. Whoa, that's amazing.
Even better.
Even better. That's exactly what you are supposed to be doing on this planet as a human being and as a soul. So keep up the great work and expect a reward from
Yeah.
making this mistake, frankly. I'm sending you a reward.
Awesome. Blessing. Oh yeah.
Um, all right, AI. There are some things that I can't remember the AI thing now, which probably means I'm not supposed to talk about it. But I did a quick, I'll just repeat it. I'll go through it really quickly, but I did a TikTok post about this, but there were a few things that came up where I was like, I need to like rant about this on the podcast. One of them was the Epstein stuff where it's just like the Epstein is a launching pad to break, like to see through the matrix, to break out of the matrix. So treat it as a launching pad. It's a path that just shows the connectedness. You're saying, it seems like all these power players and systems and governments, all this stuff is connected in this weird way. Yeah, that is to show the connectedness, the interconnectedness of absolutely everything. That's what it's trying. That's what it's trying to do. And it's getting more and more outrageously cartoonish to like exaggerated so that it becomes clearer and clearer to show the connectedness of everything, so that it can disrupt the matrix, which is our collective ego structure that we put onto society to fix in place a one reality or one story of reality, that we're going to move through in linear time, as opposed to accepting like multidimensional fluid reality. So allow it to be a launching pad. If anybody's listening where the Epstein stuff has like gotten under your skin again, it's a path. It's not an end game. Mm-hmm. So don't get trapped on the hamster wheel of worrying about the players or what's going to happen with it. It's trying to get you to see beyond. Yeah. To be so that was one thing.
It's a great point.
Another one, try to be concise about this one. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this is about the myth of Mean Girls. So okay. The idea of Mean Girls is a construct. And it's a construct that was born out of the collective perception of being very disconnected from our feminine aspects and feeling that we needed to suppress them. So we collectively devised patriarchal capitalism, environmental destruction, all those things that are all the same version of the same thing in different forms. So I hear people when I say it's a myth, it's like, it ain't a myth, I've experienced it. What you have experienced is we're not going to talk about adult women right now. We're going to keep it to the girls part. A girl or a teenage girl exhibiting behaviors of aggression, cruelty, or manipulativeness towards you, which are human traits. And they are human traits. Aggression and cruelty are human traits that we decided girls and women weren't allowed to have. Only men were allowed to have those, and we would still love and revere and respect them. And manipulation is a trait that we didn't like as a society, and we decided to project it onto exclusively women and girls and say they're the ones who are manipulative, and not, and close our eyes, put a shield over our eyes to seeing those exact same traits exhibited in boys, teenage boys, and men. So it all comes from these really misogynist tropes of women being catty. First of all, it's also not universal. The Mean Girls thing is very culturally specific. And I remember reading about, like, it wasn't even a culture that was really divorced from like Western culture. It was like Dutch people being like, I don't understand these American depictions of high school. Like, it's just not whatever. So there's a few aspects of this. So number one, feeling disconnected from our feminine energy and that we need to suppress it. So we start creating all these constructs. Number two, within those constructs, patriarchal, whatever, that we've created, we start to allow only men and boys to have certain traits, and demonize women and girls for having them, and we start to project certain traits onto only girls and refuse to see them when they're being done by men and boys. And number three, we collectively, especially in the United States, decided to put a whole bunch of cultural attention on this idea that teenage girls are just toxic and awful and whatever, and create this phenomenon of mean girls that fed into it. So then you're just creating a machine that goes on its own, right? Like, you're creating holograms of people that act out this projected idea that you have of what young femininity is. So it all comes together. So it's a construct. And with all this stuff about magnetic or feminine energy coming online, it naturally embodies all of those traits that are embodied in all aspects of the universe, destructive traits or evasive traits. I'm trying to find a more cosmic word for manipulative. But anyway, so I grew up, so from the moment I was born, I was ordered to listen. Yeah, it's like I'm singing the how can I try to explain? When I do, he turns away again. Is it a Cat Stevens song or something? Anyway, um, my mom was very feminist. And so I was, and she talked to me from the moment I was born, like using adult language, and shared her philosophies on life and humanity. So I was very, like my soul came in really primed to not um, fall for that particular thing, to the point where I had trouble seeing it when a girl or woman was being like a certain way, like acting in a certain way towards me, because I was so like I had trouble just seeing it at all, like as like a thing, because I was so like, you're going to see outside this matrix. I think because I had so many lifetimes of internalized misogyny and living in a quote unquote male body and projecting that stuff, and I had to just like get through my karmic loop of that. Mm-hmm. So I was able, going through childhood and adolescence, to have a certain level of, I wasn't like crazy wise behind my ears or anything, but I was able to have like a certain level of distance and observing and like notice patterns, which I'm also autistic, so pattern spotting. But I was able to notice that boys would bully me about my appearance. And so, for example, these in elementary school, these guys were like, "Hey, Kathleen, you're pretty ugly," blah, blah, like whatever. So, yeah. Like, not the most, but like it's still, it's like it wasn't like the rapier wit or anything, but it was effectively cruel. Like it's the exact same behavior, right? And then I was able to notice that, especially like the older I got and looking back on things too, I was able to put the pieces together. I was able to notice that when boys like did the thing, I don't think they're, anyway, but they used to be the thing where they would like stand up and like rate women's appearance as they with like numbers and stuff. Yeah. Like that is,
that's like insane.
Yeah, but that's exactly what we're projecting. What we're saying only girls do, right? Yeah. Oh, there's another component that I will talk about with the mean girls phenomena that I haven't gotten to yet. But anyway, let me just finish this thought. Stay on track. And I was able to notice that they would start rumors. And I was able to notice about girls. And I was able to notice that they would use really sexist things to bully girls, which is exactly like the same. It's like aggression, cruelty, manipulativeness. When guys form that wall, the heterocentric circles where guys are like bros before hoes, and they have these groups of friends that will like lie to each other's girlfriends for them and just like do that is a clique. That is a clique. And the women are excluded from that's a clique. It's just a clique. And I was able to notice that sexually assaulting this anyway, there was a particular story that I won't get into because it's too triggering to put on people to listen to, but sexually assaulting a teenage girl and then starting rumors, like that's the most profound form of cruelty, aggression, and manipulation, right? And then this is the third part, is we like to get really mad at women and girls for doing cruel things against each other and not like being solidaritous. I don't know what the showing solidarity with each other, and like, and this is a common thing with marginalized or oppressed group where it's like black on black crime, right? Shifting the focus to black on black crime, which is just lateral violence,
Mm-hmm.
and like demonizing that instead of seeing the structure that's making it impossible for, or much more dangerous, risky, or impossible for that aggression to be directed at people who hold the power, who have historically been men, right? Like,
Yeah.
which is obviously we're shifting, and I'm not trying to give power to that old story, but that was the story that I was birthed into. It was still I grew up in a small town in Quebec in the 90s. It was very much still the story and the structure that was in place. So that we aside from wanting girls to be somehow more gentle, because we've projected other things like gentleness and nurturing onto women, and so when they step outside of that, it's like, what the fuck? But the fact that it's lateral based aggression and cruelty, which is simply the result of the power structure squashing their, like flattening the cruelty and aggression so that it just goes out laterally or towards children and adults. Like who you'll have power over is who you're going to, or who you have as much power as is who you're going to like lash out at. So instead of seeing that for what it is, we really get all up in our judgments about it. But the lateral thing where you say, okay, but you see this, girls are always doing this stuff to each other and the guys aren't, they're just like hanging out and having fun. That I was also able to see through. I had a boyfriend, and he was an interesting mix. I had him all through high school, and not all through high school, in high school, and then going into after high school. He was like a big time stoner. He was very woke in certain ways, and kind of like outside of like the paradigm of teenage boy, but in other ways, I mean, he was a soccer player, so he had a group of friends that were he was a teenage boy in the 90s in small town Quebec with a group of friends that were also teenage boys, and I got to observe them. Oh my god, he had a friend who was like, why are your asked me was like, why are your breasts so far apart? But I'm just saying, like, this is classic
What?
mean, quote unquote mean
Yeah.
girls. This is not, but I got to watch them do lateral aggression, cruelty, and manipulation. I watched them. There was like a hierarchy. There was somebody who was always getting left out of things, and they wouldn't necessarily express it the same way that girls would because they had been raised to suppress their emotions and blah blah blah. But they would talk behind each other's back, and they would lie to each other, and they would exclude people, and they would make fun. They would do so much like making fun of each other. And when it's guys making fun of each other, people are just like, haha, like
Little big boys.
they're like having a good time, and it doesn't stick, and it's not actually like, it's the girls that cause the real emotional wounds, and they're like, and it's like bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was able to see all of that. I think it was just a very important part of my soul path and soul growth to
Mhm.
just see through like all of that bullshit. And I don't know why, but it just came up recently where I was like, I got to talk about it. This is the stuff like I would have been going on and on about like 20 years ago. But I was like, I gotta talk about it again. I gotta talk about how this Mean Girls stuff, and even like Tina Fey's attempt to do a kind thing about it, was still like
Reinforcing it.
like putting attention as though it was a well established thing.
Yeah.
And in fact, here's also, um, you don't need proof or evidence of this, but you just need to resonate. You just need to hear it and resonate with it to know that if it's true or new or not for you. What I'm saying, it doesn't have to be true for you, of course. But the reason that submarines were designed to be so small is because they assumed it was going to be women in them, because they thought we could never have men in those conditions, close quarters, claustrophobic, working together harmoniously. Only women can work. So like it's like really weird.
Oh.
You know how these constructs that we have about like they completely shift, and it's
Mhm.
like so um yeah, so and that's back in the day, right? Like people weren't
Yeah.
exactly super woke, but they were able to have that understanding of like, no, we would have a much better. I forget why they ended up deciding that it had to be men anyway. Like
Yeah.
that, despite the fact that they knew it would work better with women. Um,
Yeah, I want to know what happened there because that's fascinating.
yeah, yeah, and it's also like if you read certain older stories too, like there are certain older stories that play into that kind of idea of women and cattiness, and it's like it's very class based as well and race
Boy.
based,
Yeah.
where it's like if you're talking to like working class women of a certain era, they're not perceived as women in the same way, so their ability to be directly aggressive or like even violent or whatever is like not viewed with the same uh stigma within their class, so it's like it doesn't even resonate with them. They're like, what are you talking about? Like I'll
Yeah.
just like I'm upset, I'll punch somebody, you know. Like um anyway, I'm not trying to make class generalizations, but like it's like there are like very specific cultural class things that come into play too, where it's just like it's um this idea of the mean girl hasn't even been in our culture in the same way. There's like lots of stories where you just see, which was my experience in high school. Like I was like getting ready to go to high school watching all these American shows, and I was like, this feels terrifying. And then I went to high school and it's just like um it's not that I never experienced any nastiness or whatever from other girls. Um, but it was really minimal. Like mostly the girls at school, they were like either quite nerdy and very pleasant and collaborative and cheerful, or kind of punky and angsty, but not cruel. And the rich girls were just they just kind of did their own, like partied in their own people and did their own thing, but they weren't doing it anyway. I think because of my soul path and whatever, I was like able to have a completely different experience of high school. Uh,
I love that.
so it just
That's
really, really never resonated for me. And I know people have gone through the experience of being like mercilessly bullied by girl gangs or girl group, but it's like, yeah, that's still a construct
yep.
of like that falls into like those four things, and especially the first one, first and foremost, just not allowing women and girls to express the full experience and express the full human experience, which includes a lot of darker, more destructive shit, you know.
Mhm.
And just like allowing them to do that without not being like, yay, it's great that I was mercilessly, but without turning it into a calcified category that is um, limits your perception of what a teenage girl, especially teenagers, are so angry because
Yeah.
they're at that exact stage of realizing at their deep subconscious level, because you come into the world so much more fluid and with so much more ties to and memories, like deeply, deeply, deeply in your core, memories of like, oh, reality isn't all. And then in childhood, you're exposed to a lot of things that are like, yeah, magic and this. And then you hit adolescence and it's like, oh, that's when you see, you're like, people are telling me things that they're like telling me to do things that they're not doing. They
Yeah.
are being completely inconsistent. They are wanting me to turn into an obedient worker. They are wanting to control. They don't, adults are not invested in autonomy and sovereignty, especially not mine. Like that's why there's so much volatility and rage, because they're just like at the point of being like, wait, but this all isn't real, to being like sucked into like, ah, fuck, I'm going into the matrix and I don't
Yeah.
wanna. And that
Damn.
includes girls as much as guys, right?
Hmm.
And I'm
Because
also not trying to demonize teenage boys,
yeah.
even for the sexual violence. All of it is just the way I feel now about every aspect of humanity is just like consciousness experiencing
Yeah.
itself. And I'm not at all trying to demonize teenage boys, um, who, of course, have their own battles of being raised as boys as well. Uh, but
No,
it's just, you kind of have to show, like, it's like, no, they're doing all the exact same shit.
yeah.
I mean, like, the weird thing when they say, like, the physical, like, mercilessly beating a kid to a pulp and calling him a fag, like, that is somehow less insidious and cruel than Mean Girls. Still, it's all
Yeah.
the same thing.
It really is. Yeah. That's such a good. I did not expect the conversation to go this way today. I'm really chewing on some stuff because I've been actually thinking about as part of my gender exploration and femininity and all everything else, and how I used to hate being a girl and I would be so much easier if I were a boy and all of these things. And I remember I've been pulling up memories, or they just keep popping up, of my mom. I remember watching a movie with her. I don't even know which movie it was, but it showed like a male friendship of some kind, and it was really beautiful and whatever. And she was like, oh yeah, whatever she said made me feel like, oh, only boys get that, girls just treat each other so differently and it's awful and whatever. And I remember internalizing that, like, oh yeah, which is part of the reason I wanted to be a boy, because I was like, oh, I would have better relationships because of, or some whatever. And then there was something else, I can't, but anyway, something similar to that, where it was just like, I definitely experienced being the program that I experienced installing the program of the mean
Mm-hmm.
girl thing, and then also not really experiencing it though, like you were saying, you just go to high school and you think everything's so scary or whatever, and it's like it's actually not that bad. And there are some people who are whatever, but it was anyway, it was just really interesting to hear you talk about that. And I like that we're kind of dispelling some of those holograms because it's fucking time.
I think you and I were just supposed to have that experience so that it would be easier for us to extricate ourselves from that narrative in this lifetime,
Yeah.
quickly, so that wouldn't have to do so much, which you still do. Like it's not like I knowing that saved me from having internalized misogyny. But like there are certain things that I didn't go through in this lifetime so that I wouldn't be in stuck in every hamster loop of like shadow work to
Yeah.
clear before I could be like get a different perspective on them. And that for me is one of them. So I had to have a high school. Um, all right. So
We're back.
not sure exactly where it cut off, but I come to the end of my, oh, except I wanted to say, this is also about the helpful thing about this is that it can allow it can allow for more compassion towards if we have had experiences where a woman or a girl has acted in like those types of ways towards us, to have more compassion for them, but also for ourselves, for our parts that are like cruel and aggressive and manipulative, that is just natural parts of human behavior, to have much more compassion for those aspects of ourselves.
That's a really good point. I've been working on that for a while where I'm like, oh, I do have those parts and it is okay. I'm not gonna.
And there's something that came up where this, I won't take long over it, but it was something where it was like, for me, I just need to be able to say it out loud into a public space, because I've never, I've all that when this thing that I'm going to talk about happened, it happened post awakening. So I was always trying to view everything from seeing everybody's side and the neutral perspective and blah blah blah. But um, so I had a very, ooh, excuse me, very close friend since early tweenhood. And I've talked about this before in the podcast. That was one of the relationships that, like, just not sure if it's a permanent end, but it came to a, like, we went our separate ways back in the summer of 2022. And I there are so many ways that I could talk about the why we needed to take space from each other, and the karmic roles that we were both playing out for each other in the karmic loop. And for me, I got so many hits of like past lives where we played these roles. Um, but it very much was tied up with me being comfortable embodying my more electric or masculine aspects, and um, not, and also very empowered aspects of myself, and not feeling like it was necessarily like fully safe to just be me in that relationship. And it took me a really long time to realize that. And I did a lot of self blame. And that doesn't mean that there wasn't any part of me that was responsible for things and projections in the story itself, of course. But I never just like really allowed myself to talk about it, like just being kind to myself and just sharing my perspective with the breakdown, which was that I would always, after we decided to go our separate ways, I would always think about like reaching out again, and then start to feel really defensive, which meant I was like, okay, it's not time. But I just really felt like she wasn't able to see those parts of herself that were like, could
Yeah.
be cruel. She was really invested in goodness, as being a good person. And she really had some blind spots. And she projected some stuff really heavily onto me. And
Mm.
ultimately, I she had this thing of always making me feel like I was the one abandoning our relationship when it was like either it was just a situation where I had to like go inwards and take time and like stuff I didn't know about my neurodivergent. I was completely overwhelmed and overstimulated, so I just wasn't as available for certain periods or certain situations. Just wasn't at all capable, or I just wanted to put boundaries on things. I was actually trying to find ways to like make it possible to continue the relationship. And so when it broke down, I was still seeing everything, especially because of my understanding of myself as being so much an agent of like creation of my external reality. So I'm like there must be a way for me to snap out of this and like fix the situation. And I was just like, no, she is like pushing me away.
Yeah.
She has pushed me away many times, and that is what I wasn't accepting. I wasn't expecting like accepting myself how hurt and angry I was. I was like, no, you pushed me away and you called it me pushing you away.
Mm. Yeah.
and um and it also took away from me at like access to her husband, who's like a dear friend of mine and collaborator on so many creative projects, and her children, you know, like I'd gotten really close to like her whole family. I was like very close to her, obviously. We were like, you know, best friends for whatever. So
Yeah.
um I just went through another cycle of it again. I was like, why is this coming up again?
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, should I reach out to her? Is it finally time where like we'll have moved past? Anyway, I don't know if that, I'm not closing the door, and I'm not trying to like fix her in this fixed identity of this story we've played out, but I just have to say it out loud and be like, that is how I felt, and that was how I experienced that situation. It was like very, very traumatic. It was a very big abandonment thing. It was like I was becoming more masculine, becoming more confident, becoming more independent, assertive. I was um I took energy out of, I was doing this weird thing, codependent thing with her for a while. It was like I was like living her life with her, and I was like I can't do that anymore, and I was withdrawing energy from doing that. And my fear was with doing that, of course, it's abandonment fears that I'd be abandoned, and then like it played out in the way where we had to or separate ways. Even though I will acknowledge by that point, like I was also really done, and she had the kindness and the soul grace to be the one to say we have to, because I was also like every time we were hanging out I was feeling so drained and like getting so upset with certain things in her life, even though I was trying to put in boundaries and stuff. Anyway, I'm getting into putting blame back on myself, which is what I always do. I
Yeah.
literally always will return to putting the blame somehow back on myself. So anyway, I just wanted to say that on the air. Like I just had to, sorry to use this podcast as this place to air this thing, but
No,
I was like, I got to say it out loud and I got to say it publicly so that it's not just to myself.
that was amazing. I'm so happy you shared that because relationships of all kinds are under review right now, and people are discovering these things about themselves where it's like, oh, I am taking all the blame, what is going on kind of thing. And so hearing you talk about that so compassionately, both towards her and towards yourself, like that's really important to hear. And I don't know if this is necessarily super related, but it did, as you were talking about that, I was thinking about one last thing about this yellow jacket thing that hit me last night with this little thing under the right side of my collarbone where I have some poison there. And my masculine energy came to me last night and was like, you've been focusing so much on the feminine rage. You forgot that there is masculine rage too. And it's like he felt forgotten and abandoned. I didn't need to do a whole lot. It was more like he knows, all of my parts know that I keep my word to myself and I keep my word to my parts, and that I'm not
Mm.
abandoning them. I'm not trying to fix them. They can just come by the inner campfire and hang out in any state that they are in. And so it's not like I had this big healing, what it was just like he recognized that he was able to say it out loud. And then we just kind of are moving on. And we may address it again a bit later. Like there might be more to it, but it's not going to be crazy. It's just going to be like maybe just another gentle layer of exfoliation or something like that. And it was just, he was very compassionate to me. And I said, I am sorry. And then that was good enough. It was like, anyway, so it was just a real,
Aw.
it's like,
Yeah, our masculine parts in people who have not been able to really get in touch with them or connect with them or express them are like
yeah,
they
I know.
really need their love and tenderness and like
They do.
kindness.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yeah, an apology.
Mhm.
um
Yep.
yeah, that's really, really nice.
Fucking yellow jackets giving me all this wisdom, but like freaking me the hell out.
Yeah, well, holy shit. So I
Uh,
think that's enough. It's
yeah,
been we talked about a lot.
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, we can leave it there.
Hey,
I'm going away on my first trip outside this house where since my physical
oh yeah,
health stuff started last October, where like I really haven't gone much of anywhere, and it's usually for like an hour or two maximum if I do go anywhere. So we're going to a cottage in Point Pelee, Ontario, which is very nice. It's on Lake Erie, and we're going for the
yeah,
long weekend, so that's going to be cool.
amazing.
And oh yeah, and I do have a lot of compassion for this friend and for what she was going through and her grief and her feeling of abandonment as well.
Yeah, I get it.
um and I send her like I truly wish the best for her in all ways, like truly, truly.
Yeah, can
uh,
feel the love. Doing a great job.
so that's us for now, space kitties. We love you. See you next time.
Yay. See ya.
Mm-hmm.